This video is about counting sig figs. There's one rule that we have to follow. Leading zeros aren't significant. But there's a couple ways to interpret this rule. The first way is if the decimal point is present, and the second is if the decimal point is absent. Here's a value where the decimal point is present. And here's a value where the decimal point is absent. So what do we mean by leading zeros? It's the zeros out front. But is it these or is it these? Which side of the number is the front? The answer is that it depends. If the decimal point is present, like in this value, then you have to start from the Pacific Ocean side. So imagine the United States. You're going to have to do a good job of imagining because this looks nothing like the United States. Here's the Pacific Ocean, and so you work your way across the number. In that direction, which zeros are leading? It's these. These are the ones that come first. And so none of those are significant, and everything else is. This value has 5 sig figs. But what if the decimal point is absent, like in this number? In this case, you have to start from the Atlantic Ocean. So again, imagine the United States. Here's the Atlantic Ocean, and you work your way across, starting from the Atlantic side. Moving in this direction, which zeros are leading? These are the ones out front, and everything else is significant. So to decide which zeros are leading, we have to consider which direction we're going. In the first case, these zeros were leading because they came first. And in the second case, these were the zeros that came first. This rule works even if there are no leading zeros. Consider this value and this value. On the left side, we start from the Pacific Ocean and we go across. Are there any zeros out front? No, the first digit is a 5, and that counts. All of the others are significant. But in the second case, we start from the Atlantic Ocean because the decimal is absent. And we move across that way, and we see again there are no zeros out front. There are no zeros here. And so every single digit will be significant. The first that we see is the 5, and every one that follows is also significant. So to count sig figs, first you have to determine whether you're starting from the Pacific side or the Atlantic side. Once you figure that out, you can determine which zeros are leading. The leading zeros are not significant. What is significant? Everything else. Here's why we do this. If I say that my house is 5 kilometers from our school, well, I'm saying it's 5, and I'm not saying it's 5.000. If all I say is that this is the distance, then I don't know what these decimals are. Maybe they're zeros or maybe they're other things. I simply haven't measured. And so if only the 5 is significant, then let's convert this into meters. We would have 5,000 meters. Look at this. I just added 3 zeros. And I do not want those to be significant. Remember, all I know about is the 5. I don't know what these other digits are. And so converting means that we have to have a rule for saying that these leading zeros are not significant. That's why we have this rule. When you convert, you add leading zeros, which should not suddenly become significant. So what have we learned? We've learned the rule. Leading zeros aren't significant. We've learned how to apply this to decimal points where there's the decimal point is present. And we've learned how to apply it to scenarios where the decimal point is absent. And finally, we've learned why we have this rule. And it comes down to converting.